My name is Prasenjit Bhattacharya, co-founder of Great Manager Institute. I have the pleasure of welcoming in this podcast my good friend and an inspiration, Ashwin Srivastava. Welcome, Ashwin.
Thank you.
Ashwin, we call this the Leadership Podcast, and we only invite leaders who are special. Special because they have done things which are not in the beaten path. Now, of course, Ashwin did take the beaten paths in the sense that he is a brilliant engineer from IIT Mumbai who has done his post-graduation, but he didn't wait to finish his graduation. He was an active member of the entrepreneurship cell of IIT Mumbai. He started multiple companies. He became a venture capitalist at a very young age. He got into private equity, and many of you know him as the founder of Sapio Analytics and the CEO and the co-founder of Great Manager Institute. But I will allow you to discover Ashwin as we go through this journey and find out different facets of his personality. So Ashwin, once again, big welcome.
Thank you.
Before we get into what you have done post your IIT Mumbai, let's know you a little bit as a person. Tell us a little bit about your background, your family. Do you come from a privileged background, or did you have some big advantage which enables you to do what you do today? Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
So I come from a very small town called Sahibganj. This is a town which is on the borders of Bihar, Jharkhand and Bengal. Small, sleepy town, hilly town, where everybody knows each other. No privilege as such. Grew up there, studied in a good school over there. And my father was actually a doctor, but more of a social kind of worked in the social services. He worked for the people, especially it was an Naxalite area. So he used to work with a number of people from across the tribals in that area. So that was my first exposure to the world in a different way. And that's how I grew up there. And then I came to Delhi, prepared for JEE myself. Did not take any coaching and got into IIT Bombay. So this is my brief journey.
Wow, from Sahibganj, and those of you who are not familiar with Sahibganj, this is a beautiful, sleepy town on the banks of Ganges, Bengal-Bihar border. And very few people would expect someone from Sahibganj to actually come to IIT and IIT Mumbai without going through a coaching class. Is that what you say?
Yeah.
So you were a genius all throughout. Is that what you were saying?
No. So I think one thing I realized that, and which I learned it as a kid only. My father taught me this, that you just focus on learning things and not focus on the exams which test your learning. And that's what I did. For JEE also, people would typically prepare from those Russian books, Rodov and all. I used to prepare from NCERT because my idea was to just keep on learning. The more I learned different topics, I did not take enough time to prepare and to give exams, and somehow it worked for me. It worked for me. So that's it.
Amazing. And tell us a little bit about maybe one or two of your childhood stories that shaped you as a person.
Okay. So there's one very interesting story. So as I mentioned, my father was a doctor. So one day, there was a person who used to provide milk to us, the milkman. He came to our house and he told that he just became a father, and he came with his son. I think it was his son, and he mentioned that he has named his son Srivastava Yadav.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that in itself was little unique. So we asked why. So he told that, okay, I named it after Dr. Srivastava, which is my father, and I could not even name him. I then my genuine curiosity was you could have named him Ashok Yadav because my father's name was Dr. Ashok Kumar Srivastava. But he told that no, we respect him so much, we know him as Dr. Srivastava, only by his second name. So he named his son Srivastava Yadav. That kind of shaped me into thinking that this is the kind of impact I want to make on the world, where people's lives are being shaped because of the works that you are doing. So yeah, that was a major incident in my life.
That is such an inspiring story, and those of you who are not familiar with that part of India, and with just probably one doctor for a very large population. So whether you are the Maoist who gets injured in a attack, or whether you are the policeman, you would still come to Ashwin's father. And that was an example of a physician who took his work as a contribution to humanity, and he looked at it as a privilege.
Yeah.
And with that kind of values, Ashwin, was there a reason why you decided to become an engineer and not a doctor like your father?
No, actually, at one time when I was growing up, I wanted to be a doctor because I'm seeing him every day. I wanted to be like him. And then, when it was 12th, I just realized that I love maths. It's as simple as that, that I love maths way more than I love biology. So I found it easier for me to keep on studying maths. And that was the only reason. And in a way, maths was a major factor why I could crack JEE also. So my love for maths took me towards engineering.
Of course, from Sahibganj, Delhi must be a first shock for you.
Yeah, it was.
And from Delhi, Mumbai, of course, is another experience, and that's a very sort of artificial, protected kind of environment at Powai, at IIT.
Yes.
Tell us about these two culture shocks, the Delhi transition and Mumbai. How did you deal with it?
Right. So when I first went to Delhi, in a way, I felt alienated actually, because I was coming from a small town. My language, my accent was that of somebody who comes from Bihar, which means it is not what you expect people in a metro city to speak. So I was alienated. I even felt, there are multiple incidents where I felt that, I am being cornered because of my accent, because of the way I speak, the way I look, the way I talk. So Delhi was that kind of a culture shock for me. But in a way, those 2 years being in Delhi kind of prepared me. When I came to Mumbai, maybe because of the protected environment, but it was very different. Here I felt much more welcome somehow. Could be very well because I was there in Powai, but here I felt, okay, this is like my place. Then I kind of, I met my friends and then kind of started Mumbai in a very different way. Actually, I loved Mumbai also because I could see that every festival was being celebrated here. So in Bihar there's a Chhat Puja which happens. I could see that is being celebrated here. Ganesh Chaturthi, the Durga Puja, all the other festivals also. So I could feel very welcoming in this space. Yeah. So Mumbai was that for me.
Yes, and that is the magic of Mumbai. In a similar kind of story, I did my schooling in Delhi.
Yes.
I'm from the Northeast.
Yes.
And because of my accent and knowing that I'm from the Northeast, a lot of my friends would tease me and call me Jungli. And the moment I came to Mumbai for my higher studies, the same set of people in my university would find my accent to be cute. So that's the Mumbai effect. But tell me, in IIT, what made you spend time on the entrepreneurship cell, and is there any reason why you were drawn to entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So actually, it started in my first year itself. The idea of being an entrepreneur, before I even knew the meaning of the word entrepreneur. It actually generated first simply because I was there on MCM, Merit Cum Means Scholarship, which means there was Merit Cum Means with zero income, basically. Which means I got everything from the IIT Bombay administration itself. Everything in the sense the tuition fees and the hostel fees. So they gave the scholarship to me. But even if you get scholarship, you want to have some more money in your pocket so that you can spend beyond whatever is already being given to you. So in order to earn that, a little bit of that money, and I was anyways, as you know, against coaching. So typically in the first year, if any student wants to earn money, they generally join coaching institutes. But I would, I was already principled back then that I will not do that. So I did not join any coaching institute. I decided to do something of my own. So some small work into robotics I began with. And that's where the feeling of, or the bug of entrepreneurship caught me. So that was the starting point of entrepreneurship for me in the first year itself. And then in the second year, I could see, I became the dramatic secretary in the hostel. That was another experience. The first experience was more about entrepreneurship. The second one was more about leading a team, understanding the dynamics of a team. How, because as a dramatic secretary, I'm reporting to the hostel coordinator and so on and so forth, which was again a very unique experience where I felt that entrepreneurship is something that is something, my calling in a way. And then by third year, I joined the ESET.
This is interesting. There are types and types of entrepreneurs. Yeah. There are entrepreneurs whose prime objective is to create a startup, get investors to put in money, cash out, and make it big. And if you're really, really lucky, look at a Hotmail founder or so many other examples. And then there are entrepreneurs who genuinely want to change the world and make it a better place. And probably money is a side goal in that. So what prompts you to create organizations or to invest in organizations?
So as you mentioned, a mission, a purpose, and what I mentioned at the start only, that I always wanted to create an impact on the world where I am solving major problems. So that was there. And it started off very small, I would say. In IIT Bombay, when I began, then that may not have been the prime objective in my mind. Because at that time, I also, like everybody else, was thinking about earning some money on the side so that I can start building companies. But it began there. Some kind of thought also was there around, creating an impact. Then a very interesting incident happened with me. I started my company. I kept on running it. The company was called Incept. It also later got acquired. It was a decent success, I would say. During the running of that company, I met with an accident, which was I would say, one of those accidents where you're almost dead and you somehow come back from the death. That incident kind of further brought back that resolve in me, which was there somehow, somewhere hidden, but brought back that resolve, okay, if I have to live further, if I have kind of received another life, then it has to be dedicated to creating such an impact that thousands of years from now also that impact is felt. That was very clear. And that's where the pursuit of creating organizations to be able to create such impact began for me.
For those of you who are not familiar with that story of Ashwin, Ashwin had a very major accident while traveling in local trains, in a local train in Mumbai. And he had multiple surgeries. And he is an amputee. He has filed successfully a case against the railway authorities. And if you find that the gap between the platform and the train is less today compared to what it was in the past, thanks to the work that Ashwin has done in terms of litigation. Tell us a little bit about that phase immediately after the accident. And, frankly, when we discussed about your accident, you had no business to be alive. And here you are.
Right.
So how did you cope with the accident and how did you get back?
Yeah. No, so it's interesting because after the accident, first few days are all about surviving, because you go through multiple surgeries. Every surgery you go to, the doctor says, maybe you will not live after the surgery. Be prepared for that. As in, can't do much about it. So you go through multiple surgeries. So initially you are preparing for living. But then as you spend more and more days, because I had to spend months on bed, you start thinking of what it really means. I was able to draw a lot of positives out of it. Genuinely able to draw a lot of positive things because I felt that every action that happens in some way or the other leads to some positive outcome. And that's what I was feeling about this accident as well, that I had to convert this into something positive. So this resolve of changing the world, maybe that would not have come to me if I did not go through something like that. So that kind of helped me cope that, okay, every single thing that happens is for the positive, and that also helped me become a better entrepreneur in terms of risk-taking ability. So now today, as you know, I always take risks because I know that even if I'm failing in something, it will have a positive impact somewhere. So nothing wrong in failing, nothing wrong in something bad happening, because that bad is leading to something good also.
And here is a lesson for all of us who are listening to Ashwin. Most of us would have experiences in life which can only be called as traumatic, which are life-changing events and not always positive, very, very negative at times. We have a choice. How do we deal with those incidents? We can either waddle in self-pity, get into depression, or use that to source energy that will funnel us and that will sort of push us to achieve a far bigger goal, which is beneficial to many, many more people. And Ashwin, that energy that you created by your interpretation or post your your accident and multiple surgeries, and I remember you even participated in the Mumbai Marathon.
Yes, I did.
After that. And that's the source of energy that often people miss when sometimes their ventures, their startups, they fail because they don't have this limitless source that you created. I'm going to jump straight in and talk about your two passions. One is Great Manager Institute and Sapio. Tell us a little bit about these two organizations and what prompted you to be a part of these two organizations.
Right. So for Great Manager Institute, GMI, we call it lovingly in short GMI. So when I first met you, right, and at that time I was doing venture capital work, investing in tech companies, working with startups, knowing how startups fail and what do they do. And it's a different world altogether. The world of venture capital is, brutal in its own way because it sees companies as portfolio entities and it works in a very unique way, a very different way. I was getting somewhat disillusioned with that world. And I was in lookout for some person who has genuinely built wealth, created impact, created an organization while being ethical, while not doing anything wrong, because in the world of venture capital that I was seeing, it was not really seeming like a possible thing. I met you, we had a very long conversation, and I could see that, okay, here is one person that I have to work with, because I will learn lessons of life. I will learn things that I will not learn anywhere else from him, with him. That was the initial point of my attraction to GMI. And then naturally, once you explain the power of what you're talking about, the way you explain that, one aspect is of creating impact on certain number of people. The other aspect of it is to making it scale up to very large number. And that scale, which I wanted, the idea of GMI has been great, but the idea to scale it and make it reach to every individual is what I felt, okay, this I have to make it my own. I have to give everything to make sure that it scales to every individual, and that every individual, as our vision is to create and is to enable every individual to get an opportunity to work with great people managers. So that kind of became the mission.
And tell us a little bit about Sapio as well.
Sapio. So Sapio, during that same time, I was largely working with governments, advising them. So before even Sapio started, before I met you also, I was advising Mumbai police for in the cyber crime division for various things. So that time I got connected to a number of government entities. Then in 2020 came COVID, and it was probably the one of the biggest events in history of our world, our existence. And somehow, somewhere, I believe that I have this savior complex, where I want, if there's anything big happening, anything major happening, I want to jump into it and solve the problem. I don't want to be someone who's talking about COVID while everybody's sitting and talking about it, or living their lives. I wanted to be inside the middle of it and solve it. And that's how Sapio also began, where I started talking to every government entity that I knew of. I became part of a number of war rooms. In Mumbai also I was part of the war room. The concept of this hyper-local decision-making was designed by me, and it was actually implemented also in Mumbai, and it was implemented in Hyderabad as well. So all these decision support systems that I created, that kind of led to the creation of Sapio to a great extent, where the idea has always been to create impact on citizens using tech. So that's what we do largely at Sapio.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions which would be from the perspective of you being an entrepreneur. Now, you are associated with initiatives to eliminate poverty, to reduce unemployment.
Yeah, okay.
And you have also been associated with an organization which is working in the field of cancer, right? Now, with reference to your dream of doing something that will enable people to be positively impacted even 1,000 years from now, what do you think is a better strategy? Doing something and being very, very, very focused, or putting all your eggs in one basket may also mean that if that doesn't work out, you have wasted all your efforts. Mm-hmm. So are you diversifying your risk, so to say, in terms of...
So I would say, as an entrepreneur, no one is perfect, right? So you are always driven by certain traits that you have in your personality. You can call it by weakness as well, where the idea has always been that I have to create so much impact, I have to do everything, and there's so small a life left that I will try to do everything. That is the reason why so many things are there. But as you grow more mature also, you realize that all that can happen, but maybe give your 10 years to something, giving it your all, then do the other things and keep on doing it and create a better impact that way. So I would not say that as an entrepreneur, the best strategy is to just diversify and then try to do lots of things. It could very well be a weakness of mine that led me to do this. It would have given great results in different ways, but still it remains one of those limitations coming out of my own personality. Right? So, but yes, coming back to the main point that, okay, the idea should be that, okay, I will create impact everywhere. That's what I believe. But with complete focus on certain things, it's very important to give everything to some things and then keep on doing it. Otherwise, the depth of that impact will reduce, and that 1,000 years which I talked about may not be achieved. So to achieve that 1,000 years, you need to be able to bring that depth.
And that's a big dilemma. But when you are a young entrepreneur in the Forbes list of 30 under 30, which is what Ashwin Srivastava was, then you possibly have the luxury of trying out multiple new innovative things. And then as you go and you are, you move towards your 40 or 40 plus, that's the time when you need really 10 years runway to create one major impact.
Completely agree.
Ashwin, this has been such a pleasure talking to you, and I am so inspired, and I'm sure those who are watching this podcast would be energized and inspired to do something just beyond, or not just limited to being in a job. And Ashwin had the option of getting one of the best paid jobs in India, or why India, in US or any other place. And this is the path that he charted for himself. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasenjit. Thanks a lot for everything.